What if I tell you that the six-figure income you dream of is not somewhere far away in the future, but is already waiting for you the moment you step into the version of yourself who has it? And the only thing separating you from it is the way you currently see and feel about yourself. You might have been conditioned for years to believe that money comes only through hard struggle, endless sacrifice, or luck, but Neville Goddard's teachings reveal that these beliefs are nothing more than assumptions you unconsciously accepted as true. When you pause and look at your life, you'll notice that everything you have now, from your relationships to your possessions, once existed only as an inner picture in your imagination before it showed up in your physical world. The same law applies to money, because money itself is not the goal. It is simply a mirror reflecting the state of consciousness you carry within you each day. Neville often said that imagination creates reality. And if imagination truly shapes the events and circumstances of your life, then building the identity of someone earning six figures is not only possible, but inevitable once you persist in that state. Think of your imagination as the blueprint and your feelings as the fuel, because together they form the inner reality that the outer world must obey without exception. Instead of waiting for evidence, the key is to embody the wealthy version of yourself right now, in your inner conversations, your assumptions, and the secret life of your mind. When you lie down at night, ask yourself not how you will make more money, but how it would feel if the six-figure income was already yours and you were simply living with that financial freedom. In that state, the struggle of trying to figure out the how dissolves, because you shift your focus from the outer process to the inner fulfillment that actually makes the outer process possible. You will notice small hints at first, unexpected opportunities, random conversations, sudden clarity about ideas you once ignored, all of them forming what Neville called the bridge of incidents, which effortlessly leads you from your current state to the state you have already claimed in imagination. The challenge for most people is not in imagining, but in persisting. Because when the world outside still shows lack, the temptation is to doubt the law and fall back into old assumptions of scarcity. But the moment you allow yourself to remain in the end, feeling the certainty that you already live as the six-figure earner, the outer world slowly but surely rearranges to match that inner conviction. You may find your inner conversations shifting, where once you used to complain about bills or stress about debts, you now find yourself imagining gratitude, speaking to yourself as someone who has more than enough. This shift in inner dialogue is not make-believe. It is the creative act that seeds your subconscious and commands reality to obey. Each time you return to that state, even when doubts creep in, you are watering the seed of your wealth consciousness and ensuring its growth beneath the surface. Eventually, the persistence pays off, and what seemed like fantasy becomes the ordinary reality of your life. Yet you will know deep down, it was never ordinary. It was the law of assumption at work. The first step, then, is simple, yet profound. To recognize that the six-figure version of you already exists in consciousness, and your only task is to dwell in that state until it becomes natural. So tonight, before you sleep, allow yourself to close your eyes and hear the words, "I am financially free, I am a six-figure earner, I am abundant," and feel it as if it were the truest statement of your life. As Neville taught, the world is nothing more than yourself pushed out, which means if you accept this inner reality, the outer must bow and conform to it. And with that awareness, your journey to six figures is no longer about struggle or chance, but about stepping into the role of the person who already has it. When you begin to see yourself as already wealthy, you may notice how quickly the old patterns of thinking try to pull you back. And this is where Neville's teaching on living in the end becomes your anchor. Because instead of reacting to appearances, you deliberately choose to respond from the version of you who has already crossed into the six-figure life. At first, it may feel unnatural to assume that kind of identity when your bank account still shows less than you desire, but that discomfort is actually proof that you are stretching beyond the boundaries of the old self and stepping into a new state of consciousness. Living in the end does not mean pretending or lying to yourself, It means accepting the reality of the fulfilled desire so deeply in imagination that it feels as normal and natural as breathing. This is why Neville often said that you must assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, because the feeling signals to the subconscious mind that the event has already taken place, and the subconscious then orchestrates everything necessary to make it a fact in your world. Imagine for a moment what your mornings would feel like if you already earned 6 figures. How you would wake up, how you would check your phone, how you would dress, how you would move through your day with a sense of certainty instead of worry. Each time you step into that imaginal scene, no matter how short, you are rehearsing a new normal, and soon your mind stops treating it as a fantasy and begins treating it as truth. The power of living in the end is that it bypasses logic, because the logical mind insists on seeing proof first, but imagination insists on feeling proof first and letting the evidence follow. If you can hold that state even for a few minutes daily, the outer world slowly bends, and you begin to notice new conversations, new ideas, or even sudden offers that seem like coincidences, but are actually answers to your assumption. The struggle many face is that they drop the assumption too soon, letting doubt cancel the seed before it has had time to sprout. Neville compared this to planting a seed and then digging it up each day to check if it is growing. You must trust the unseen growth and persist in your inner knowing. Living in the end is not a one-time event, but a way of being, a steady inner posture that says, I already am what I desire to be. The 6-figure version of you has habits, thoughts, and feelings very different from the version struggling with scarcity. And the moment you consistently identify with the wealthier self, your behaviors and circumstances naturally align. It is not about forcing or controlling outcomes, but about faithfully rehearsing the feeling until it becomes so real that you forget you are rehearsing. Even when outer facts contradict you, the law demands persistence, because the unseen world of imagination always precedes the seen. In time, the effortlessness of wealth begins to take root, and you realize that opportunities flow more easily, not because the world has changed, but because you have shifted states. Each repetition of living in the end strengthens the new identity until the old one loses its grip and fades away. The true magic is that when the outer reality finally delivers the 6-figure income, it will feel strangely natural, as though it had always been yours. And that is the unmistakable sign you truly lived in the end. By anchoring yourself daily in this state, you are no longer chasing money, but embodying the self for whom 6 figures is a normal experience. And as Neville reminded his students, dare to believe in the reality of your assumption and watch the world play its part. For the world must always conform to the one who lives in the end. As you settle into the practice of living in the end, you will quickly discover that the real barrier to manifesting a 6-figure income is not the outside world, but your self-concept, because the way you see yourself determines what you allow into your experience. If you secretly believe that money is hard to keep, that you are not the kind of person who can earn a lot, or that wealth belongs to others but not to you, then those assumptions quietly sabotage your progress no matter how much you imagine. Neville taught that self-concept is destiny, meaning you cannot consistently manifest beyond the limits of who you believe you are. And this is why transforming your self-image is the foundation of wealth consciousness. Imagine for a moment the person who already earns 6 figures with ease. Notice how they walk into a room, how they think about themselves, how they respond when money is mentioned, and how natural it feels for them to prosper. That version of you is not an illusion, but a state of consciousness waiting to be occupied. And when you assume it as your identity, the world has no choice but to reflect it. Many people make the mistake of trying to change circumstances without changing the inner story they tell about themselves, and so they end up repeating cycles of scarcity even when they temporarily make more money. But once the inner identity shifts, the external reality must follow, because life is only a mirror showing you your concept of self. You may start to notice small but powerful changes. Perhaps you no longer feel nervous about paying bills. Perhaps you find yourself imagining bigger possibilities. Or perhaps you feel deserving of opportunities that you once dismissed. These subtle inner shifts are the true indicators of growth, and they are worth more than the immediate appearance of money, because they ensure lasting change. The self-concept of a six-figure earner is calm, certain, and secure, not desperate, anxious, or needy. And the more you rehearse this version of yourself, the more natural it becomes. Neville insisted that the key is not forcing, but accepting. Because when you accept yourself as wealthy in imagination, the subconscious works tirelessly to bring that assumption into fact. At first it may feel like acting, but eventually the line between acting and being dissolves, and you realize you have become the person you once only imagined. Each assumption you hold about yourself creates invisible boundaries, and by choosing new assumptions, you expand those boundaries until wealth flows freely into your life. This is not about arrogance or pretending to be superior. It is about remembering that consciousness itself is the source of all experiences, and you are free to choose the version of yourself you wish to live as. By consistently choosing the six-figure identity, you rewrite not just your future, but your present, because the law works only in the now. With each passing day, the gap between who you believe you are and who you desire to be shrinks, until eventually they are one and the same. At that point, money becomes an extension of your state rather than something you chase, and six figures feels like the most natural outcome of who you are. The journey, therefore, is not about forcing money to come, but about dissolving the old self-concept that blocked it from arriving. And when you fully accept the wealthier self as your truest identity, the law of assumption ensures that nothing in your reality can resist conforming to that choice. Once you begin to reshape your self-concept into that of a six-figure earner, you will realize the next powerful tool Neville emphasized is imagination itself. Because imagination is not daydreaming or idle fantasy, but the creative force that shapes every detail of your life. The mistake most people make is treating imagination as something less real than the physical world, when in truth the physical world is only imagination solidified over time. When you deliberately create inner scenes of wealth, you are giving form to an invisible reality that must eventually harden into fact. And this is why Neville called imagination the only reality. To manifest a six-figure income, you must imagine in such a way that it feels real, vivid, and emotionally satisfying, because the subconscious responds not to logic, but to the intensity of feeling attached to an image. For instance, instead of imagining stacks of money or abstract numbers, picture yourself opening an email notification of a large payment, or feel the texture of a thicker wallet, or hear yourself telling a close friend that you have finally crossed the six-figure mark. These scenes work best when they are short, clear, and repeatable, because the subconscious is impressed not by complexity, but by simplicity, combined with deep emotion. Each time you revisit that imaginal act, you reinforce it as a living reality inside you. And sooner or later, life outside bends to mirror it. You may notice resistance at first, with your logical mind saying it is silly or impossible, but that is only the voice of the old state fighting for survival. The more often you enter into the imaginal scene, the weaker the resistance becomes, and the stronger the sense of certainty grows within you. Neville insisted that what you imagine with feeling is already yours, and the world outside has no choice but to conform, because imagination is the seedbed of reality. The beauty of this process is that you need not know the details of how the six-figure income will arrive. Your only task is to dwell in the imaginal experience of already having it. Over time, these imaginal acts sink into the subconscious and begin orchestrating opportunities, ideas, and encounters that align with your vision. Some may call this coincidence, but you will recognize it as the unfolding of the law. By practicing imagination daily, especially in moments of quiet like before sleep, you saturate your mind with the feeling of wealth until it becomes second nature. You will notice your mood shifting, your expectations rising, and your actions flowing more confidently, all because imagination has created a new foundation for your life. The six-figure self is not built by hard struggle in the outer world, but by rehearsing it inwardly until it feels inevitable. The more you immerse yourself in these imaginal experiences, the more the subconscious is compelled to create matching circumstances in your world. At that point, money ceases to feel like something outside you and becomes the natural expression of who you already are. And the real secret is that once you master imagination for money, you realize you can apply it to every area of your life. Because imagination truly is the workshop of creation. As you immerse yourself in the practice of imagining and feeling your six-figure income, you will begin to understand that the next crucial step is controlling your inner conversations. Because every thought you allow to linger is like a seed planted either in harmony with your desire or in contradiction to it. Most people spend hours each day unconsciously repeating doubts, fears, or complaints. And these repeated inner statements shape the reality they experience, often keeping them trapped far below their potential. Neville taught that the subconscious is always obedient to the feeling you impress upon it, and therefore even subtle shifts in your mental dialogue can have enormous consequences in the material world. Imagine speaking to yourself not as someone struggling to earn, but as someone who already commands abundance and acts with the confidence, clarity, and decisiveness of a six-figure earner. Each inner phrase of gratitude, certainty, or affirmation reinforces the new self-concept, while each thought of scarcity or limitation quietly weakens it. You will find that monitoring your inner conversations is challenging at first, because old patterns are deeply ingrained, but persistence and awareness gradually allow you to catch thoughts the moment they arise. When you notice a negative thought, do not berate yourself. Simply redirect it toward the version of you who already has what you desire, replacing doubt with certainty. Over time, your inner world will become a fertile field where only the assumptions and ideas that support your wealth can take root. And the subconscious will naturally begin orchestrating circumstances to reflect that inner state. This is why Neville emphasized that your mental environment must be treated with the same seriousness as your physical one, because reality is merely a reflection of your inner state. By intentionally guiding your inner dialogue, you align your thoughts, feelings, and imagination into a coherent stream that signals to the subconscious that the six-figure income is already yours. You will start noticing how your conversations with others subtly change, because the inner state inevitably colors your outer expressions, making you more confident, persuasive, and open to opportunities. Even when external setbacks appear, your internal dialogue remains anchored in the end, protecting the assumption from erosion and allowing the unseen to continue unfolding on your behalf. This practice gradually creates an inner authority, a certainty that commands attention not just within yourself, but also in the world around you. Friends, colleagues, or potential clients will begin to respond differently, not because you are manipulating them, but because your aligned state naturally attracts situations that reflect your new identity. Each day spent cultivating constructive inner conversations strengthens the bridge between imagination and reality, accelerating the manifestation process. When you consistently speak to yourself as the person who already enjoys financial freedom, you are laying down neural pathways that make it effortless to act in alignment with your desired life. It is in these moments of self-guided inner discipline that the foundation for your six-figure reality is built, solid and unshakable, long before any money appears in your bank account. You begin to understand that the outer world is not the teacher. The inner world is, and by mastering it, you are mastering life itself. And in mastering your inner dialogue, you create a space where imagination, assumption, and feeling converge, making the manifestation of six figures not just possible, but inevitable. As you continue mastering your inner conversations, you will notice that feelings, not thoughts alone, are the secret drivers of manifestation, because the subconscious responds most powerfully to the emotional reality you live in rather than the intellectual one you discuss. And this is why Neville always emphasized feeling the wish fulfilled. It is not enough to say, "I will earn six figures," without truly feeling the inner state of that reality, because the emotion signals to the subconscious that this reality is already a fact, compelling it to arrange circumstances in alignment with it. Imagine the sensation of relief, freedom, and confidence that would flow through you if your bank account reflected six figures today, and allow yourself to live in that emotional reality as though it were occurring in the present. Each time you immerse yourself in that feeling, even for a few minutes, you are planting a seed in the subconscious that grows silently until it manifests in the outer world. The challenge lies in persistence, because when external circumstances contradict your feeling, it is easy to doubt and fall back into old emotional patterns that reflect lack or limitation. Yet Neville taught that the outer world is nothing more than a mirror of the inner world, which means your emotional state holds ultimate authority over every circumstance. You may begin to notice subtle shifts, unexpected calls, ideas, or opportunities that seem like chance, but they are really the subconscious responding to the consistent feeling of fulfillment you have cultivated. As you practice this regularly, the emotion of abundance becomes natural, replacing fear, worry, and impatience, and this new emotional foundation supports every action and decision you take. The subconscious does not distinguish between imagination and reality when feeling is involved. It accepts the emotion as truth and begins silently coordinating the steps necessary to bring the imagined reality into form. This is why the state akin to sleep set is so powerful, because in the relaxed, semi-conscious state before sleep, your imagination can impress the subconscious most effectively. By creating vivid, emotionally charged scenes each night, you instruct your mind to align your waking circumstances with the assumed reality of a six-figure income. You will find that your habits, choices, and even casual thoughts start reflecting the abundance you have embraced emotionally. And that is the invisible law of assumption at work. Over time, your inner reality becomes so dominant that the outer world can no longer resist conforming to it. And opportunities that once seemed improbable now flow effortlessly into your life. Feeling rich is not about temporary excitement or forced positivity. It is about cultivating a deep, unshakable emotional certainty that you are already the person you wish to be. Each repetition strengthens the bridge between imagination and reality, transforming your inner world into the fertile soil from which six-figure income naturally grows. When you combine persistent feeling with controlled inner conversation, you create a magnetic state that draws the circumstances, people, and ideas necessary to complete your vision. This is why Neville insisted that the assumption must be lived in, felt, and embodied fully, because only then does it transform the unseen into the seen. And as you master feeling the wish fulfilled, you start to notice that money is no longer the struggle you once imagined, but a natural extension of your inner state, flowing to you as effortlessly as water follows gravity. As you deepen your practice of feeling the wish fulfilled, you will begin to recognize that persistence is the hidden key to manifestation, because fleeting moments of belief are like scattered seeds that rarely take root, whereas steady, repeated assumption produces results that are inevitable. Life will tempt you to abandon the state, presenting circumstances that seem to contradict your desired six-figure income. But Neville taught that appearances are never reality and should not sway your inner conviction, because what you assume in consciousness ultimately shapes everything else. Each time doubt or fear creeps in, you have the choice to return to the end state, to immerse yourself again in the identity of someone who already earns the income you desire, and to feel it as vividly as if it were happening right now. Persistence is not about stubbornness, but about faith expressed through continual assumption. Because the subconscious does not measure time, it only measures the strength and consistency of the feeling impressed upon it. You will notice that small signs begin appearing in your outer world. A call, an opportunity, a new idea. But these are not the end result. They are simply indicators that your inner persistence is creating movement behind the scenes. The bridge of incidents, which Neville often spoke of, begins forming naturally, connecting your current reality to the fulfilled desire. And it is your unwavering inner state that ensures you cross it without faltering. When challenges arise, they are tests not of the law, but of your commitment to remain aligned with your assumption. And meeting these tests with steadfast belief strengthens your inner authority. Each day you return to the end state, you reinforce a new pattern of thinking and feeling, gradually overwriting old assumptions of lack or limitation that previously dictated your life. The subconscious works tirelessly on behalf of the state you occupy, arranging events, people, and circumstances that are in harmony with your inner conviction, even before you consciously recognize them. You will begin to act in alignment with the six-figure self naturally, making decisions, speaking words, and taking actions that reflect the person you have assumed yourself to be. Persistence transforms imagination from mere possibility into inevitability, because the law obeys the state of consciousness you maintain, not the outer appearances that seem contrary. Over time, the inner state becomes so dominant that external evidence can no longer contradict it, and you find yourself moving effortlessly toward opportunities that previously seemed out of reach. Neville emphasized that the key is to remain in the end, undisturbed by temporary appearances, because the law of assumption works quietly, invisibly, and always in your favor when you do not interfere. As you persist, your confidence grows, your thoughts become sharper, and your actions more decisive, all reflecting the inner certainty you now inhabit. Small victories and synchronicities start accumulating, proving to your conscious mind that the subconscious is orchestrating circumstances in perfect alignment with your desires. This is the point at which manifestation begins to accelerate, because consistent persistence creates momentum that cannot be stopped by external events. The six-figure income you imagine becomes inevitable, not through effort or struggle, but through faithful, repeated assumption combined with feeling and inner authority. And as you continue, you realize that persistence is not just a technique, but a lifestyle, a state of being in which your inner world constantly guides and shapes your outer reality, ensuring that wealth flows naturally and continuously. Once you have mastered persistence in your assumption, you will notice that trust becomes the invisible engine that powers your manifestation, because without absolute trust in the reality of the assumed state, doubt can sneak in and undermine even the most vivid imaginal acts. Trust is not blind optimism, but a deep knowing that what you have imagined and felt is already true, and that the unseen world is quietly arranging circumstances to reflect it in the physical. You begin to observe that the more you trust, the less anxious you feel about the how of your six-figure income. And this calm confidence allows your subconscious to work unhindered, orchestrating events with effortless precision. The moment you stop questioning and start accepting, you release resistance, and life begins to align with your inner reality as naturally as a river flowing to the sea. Trust is cultivated through repeated practice of living in the end, feeling the wish fulfilled, and maintaining constructive inner conversations, because each consistent reinforcement deepens your conviction and silences old doubts. You will start noticing subtle signs that the law is at work. Unexpected opportunities, timely connections, or creative ideas that appear precisely when needed. And these are confirmations of the unseen bridge forming between your present state and your desired reality. As trust grows, your actions become effortless and inspired rather than forced or anxious, because your inner certainty guides every decision and interaction in alignment with the six-figure self you have assumed. People around you begin to respond differently, not because you are trying to influence them, but because your aligned state radiates confidence and attracts circumstances that mirror your inner reality. Each small synchronicity builds momentum, reinforcing your faith and making the outer manifestation of wealth feel inevitable rather than impossible. Neville emphasized that trust in the unseen is the cornerstone of all creation, because the law of assumption never fails, but it requires your unwavering belief to function fully. When you encounter setbacks, instead of panicking, you learn to interpret them as temporary appearances that cannot affect the reality you have firmly assumed, and this perspective shields your state from wavering. Over time, trust becomes second nature, and your inner world is so strong and coherent that external events cannot contradict it, only support it. You begin to operate in a state where imagining and feeling the six-figure reality is effortless, like breathing, and your subconscious takes over the task of arranging the outer circumstances. As your trust deepens, you stop chasing money and start living as though it is already yours, because your inner state no longer depends on the outer conditions. The law of assumption works quietly but consistently, and trust is the channel through which its power flows without obstruction. This trust also allows you to relax into abundance, appreciating what you already have while confidently anticipating the larger manifestation to come. Every day you maintain trust, your inner authority grows, and your actions naturally reflect the certainty of a six-figure earner. By combining trust with persistent assumption, vivid imagination, and constructive inner dialogue, you create a seamless, unstoppable flow that the outer world must follow. And in that flow, wealth ceases to feel like a distant goal and becomes the inevitable reflection of the person you have already chosen to be. As you deepen trust in the unseen, you will begin to recognize the transformative power of gratitude, because expressing appreciation for what already exists amplifies the feeling of abundance and signals to your subconscious that you are aligned with wealth. Gratitude is not simply polite acknowledgement. It is a potent emotional state that expands your consciousness, creating space for more of the same to flow into your life. When you focus on the blessings, opportunities, and small successes you already have, your inner state shifts from lack to plenty, and this shift automatically attracts circumstances that reflect the abundant feeling you carry. Imagine starting each day with a profound sense of gratitude for the income you already enjoy, the potential opportunities awaiting you, and the unfolding of your six-figure reality, and feel how naturally confidence and certainty rise within you. Neville emphasized that the subconscious responds to feeling more than words, and the genuine emotion of gratitude strengthens the bridge between your current state and the desired reality. As gratitude becomes a daily practice, you begin to notice the subtle flow of synchronicities, timely encounters, and fortunate ideas that confirm your inner state is taking form in the outer world. Each moment spent appreciating abundance, even before it fully manifests, reinforces your identity as someone who naturally commands a six-figure income. You may start to feel joy, ease, and satisfaction simply by imagining your wealth, and the subconscious treats this inner reality as factual, arranging events accordingly. Gratitude also neutralizes resistance, because when you are thankful for what already exists, you stop wrestling with lack, worry, and fear, and instead open the door to receive more effortlessly. The outer world begins reflecting your inner abundance, often in ways so subtle that you only notice if you are consciously aware of the flow of life around you. Over time, the act of giving thanks transforms into a state of being, where appreciation and expectation coexist naturally, and your inner world radiates the certainty of financial freedom. This consistent state of grateful alignment magnetizes opportunities, partnerships, and income streams that might have seemed impossible before, because the law of assumption responds to the harmony of your consciousness. As you maintain this grateful state, challenges lose their power to destabilize your inner certainty, because your focus is anchored in the abundance that already exists in consciousness. You will notice that money no longer feels like something to struggle for, but rather like an effortless extension of the reality you inhabit internally. By feeling gratitude for your imagined six-figure income as if it were already present, you accelerate the manifestation process and make the unseen world your collaborator rather than a source of doubt. Gratitude, combined with imagination, feeling, and trust, forms a triple foundation for manifesting wealth, ensuring that your six-figure reality is experienced first in consciousness and then reflected outside. The mind begins to recognize that abundance is not conditional, and the consistent emotion of gratitude creates a magnetic field that draws matching circumstances. With each repetition of this practice, your inner state strengthens, becoming unshakable, and the outer world is compelled to conform to the identity you have assumed. Ultimately, gratitude is not a technique but a lifestyle, a way of living as if your desires are already fulfilled. And in that lifestyle, wealth flows naturally, effortlessly, and inevitably. As you continue combining imagination, feeling, trust, and gratitude, you will notice that letting go of the how becomes a pivotal step in the manifestation of a six-figure income, because attempting to control every detail of the outer world creates resistance that undermines the subconscious work already in motion. The law of assumption operates in the unseen realm, arranging events, people, and circumstances to bring your desired reality into form. And it does so most efficiently when you release attachment to specific methods or timelines. When you obsess over, how will this money come to me? You are essentially doubting the power of your inner state and signaling uncertainty to the very force that is working on your behalf. Neville taught that once the assumption is firmly planted and felt as real, the outer world will deliver in ways you cannot yet conceive, and your only task is to remain aligned and patient. Imagine instead that your six-figure income is already present, and allow the subconscious to determine the most perfect and unexpected ways to bring it into your experience, trusting that the process is already underway. Letting go does not mean inaction. It means acting from a state of inner certainty, taking inspired steps guided by the feelings and ideas that emerge naturally from your assumed state. You may begin to notice that opportunities arrive in ways that surprise you, sometimes appearing suddenly, sometimes unfolding subtly, but always in perfect timing with your inner conviction. By releasing the how, you free your mind from unnecessary stress, doubt, and calculation, allowing creativity, intuition, and the law itself to orchestrate circumstances with elegance and precision. The moment you stop controlling and start trusting, life begins to feel effortless, and every action you take flows in harmony with the six-figure self you have assumed. This surrender is not defeat, but empowerment, because it demonstrates confidence in the unseen law and your ability to inhabit the fulfilled state without questioning. Over time, you will notice that your outer reality begins aligning faster than you imagined, as if doors are opening to previously inaccessible avenues and people, resources, or ideas appear exactly when needed. Your subconscious, now impressed with a fully developed assumption, continues to work tirelessly, orchestrating outcomes that match the inner state of certainty, freedom, and abundance. You will find that the more you let go of the how, the more opportunities reveal themselves, often in ways that seem miraculous, yet are the natural product of your inner alignment. Each time you surrender control, you strengthen faith because you experience firsthand that life responds perfectly to the state you maintain within. This process teaches you that the outer world is simply a reflection of the inner, and by keeping your inner world coherent, rich, and certain, you invite corresponding manifestations without struggle. You may also notice a profound inner peace developing because attachment to specific outcomes or methods is replaced by trust in the natural unfolding of your desire. This inner peace itself becomes a powerful magnet because calm certainty resonates far more strongly with the subconscious than desperation or anxiety. By letting go, you reinforce the principle that the six-figure income is not an external goal to be chased, but an inevitable reflection of the person you already are in consciousness. And as you continue practicing, releasing, and trusting, you move effortlessly toward the reality of your desires, knowing that the law of assumption works invisibly, perfectly, and without fail to bring your inner state into physical expression. As you continue to let go of the how and trust the unfolding, you will begin to notice that inspired action becomes the natural outcome of your aligned inner state, because the law of assumption does not simply deliver outcomes without cooperation. It prompts you to act from intuition, clarity, and confidence, rather than fear or uncertainty. The six-figure version of yourself does not force or struggle. Instead, every decision, every conversation, and every choice flows effortlessly from the certainty you carry internally. And this effortless action is guided by the alignment you have established through imagination, feeling, trust, and gratitude. You may notice sudden ideas or impulses arising, leading you to opportunities, strategies, or connections that feel perfectly timed. And acting on these intuitions is how the unseen begins to manifest visibly in your life. These inspired steps are not random, but directly linked to the subconscious work you have consistently cultivated, and they demonstrate the seamless interaction between your inner state and outer results. The more you take action from a place of confidence and certainty, the more the outer world responds, and doors that once seemed closed begin opening with remarkable ease. Neville emphasized that action motivated by the inner state of already having what you desire is far more effective than action born of lack, fear, or striving, because the latter only strengthens the old assumptions you are trying to transcend. Each step you take, no matter how small, becomes a reflection of your assumed identity, and with each reflection, the subconscious grows more obedient and precise in aligning circumstances to match your vision. You will notice that your perception of obstacles changes, because instead of reacting with anxiety or worry, you view challenges as temporary appearances that cannot resist the persistent state you inhabit. This awareness allows you to navigate business opportunities, financial decisions, and interpersonal interactions with calm certainty, making your path to six figures increasingly smooth. Inspired action also amplifies faith, because every time the world responds positively, you gain undeniable evidence that the inner state you maintain is powerful, real, and effective. Over time, these actions become habitual, integrated seamlessly into your daily life, as if the six-figure self is no longer an imagined identity, but the natural version of you operating in the world. You may find that opportunities that once required struggle or negotiation now arrive almost effortlessly, as if the universe recognizes your authority and cooperates fully with your assumptions. Each inspired step reinforces the bridge of incidents, solidifying the connection between imagination and reality until it becomes impossible for your outer life not to mirror your inner state. The process of action, guided by inner alignment, removes tension, stress, and doubt, replacing them with clarity, decisiveness, and a sense of flow that feels effortless and natural. Even when faced with unexpected circumstances, your aligned self responds creatively, confidently, and in ways that serve the ultimate manifestation of your six-figure income. Inspired action ensures that manifestation is not passive. It requires your conscious participation, but in a way that feels natural, motivated by the inner state rather than fear of lack. You begin to understand that true wealth is created internally first, and action is simply the physical expression of that inner creation. Every choice you make becomes an extension of your assumed reality, and the more consistent you are, the faster the unseen becomes seen. Neville's teachings show that when imagination, feeling, trust, gratitude, and inspired action work together, the law of assumption operates perfectly, aligning every element of your life toward the fulfillment of your desire. And in this alignment, you begin to live as if the six-figure income is already yours, with every action, thought, and feeling reinforcing that truth and making its physical manifestation inevitable. As inspired action becomes your natural way of operating, you will begin to notice that patience emerges as an essential companion to persistence, trust, and alignment. Because manifestation unfolds according to the perfect timing of the unseen, not according to your schedules, expectations, or pressures. Impatience, doubt, or anxiety can disrupt the delicate harmony between imagination, feeling, and subconscious alignment, whereas patience allows the law of assumption to complete its work without interference. You may find that things do not appear immediately in the outer world, but this delay is not denial. It is the unseen world orchestrating circumstances in precise order to match the fullness of your inner state. Neville taught that the assumption, once fully embraced and felt, is already a reality, and your outer circumstances will inevitably adjust, but only in their own time and sequence. Patience is cultivated by resting in the state of already having what you desire, fully confident that the unseen is active and responsive to your inner assumption. Each day you maintain this calm certainty, the subconscious continues working tirelessly, moving pieces into place even while you sleep, imagine, or go about your daily routine. You may notice small signs of progress, a timely phone call, a new idea, or a chance encounter, but these are glimpses of the bridge of incidents quietly forming, evidence that your inner state is powerful beyond outer appearances. Learning patience also strengthens faith, because the longer you can dwell in the end without external proof, the more you demonstrate to yourself that manifestation is a function of consciousness, not circumstance. The six-figure self you are becoming does not demand results instantly. It rests confidently in the certainty of the outcome, knowing that life itself bends to the state you occupy. You will begin to notice a profound sense of ease permeating your days, because the tension of striving and waiting is replaced by the calm expectation of fulfillment. Patience allows inspired action to flow naturally rather than reactively, because when you act from the aligned state, timing, strategy, and creativity synchronize effortlessly. Each decision, each step, and each interaction becomes an expression of your inner authority, guided by the certainty that what you have imagined with feeling is already in process. Over time, the combination of patience and persistence creates momentum that cannot be stopped by appearances, resistance, or delays, because your inner state is dominant and unshakable. You will notice that others may appear anxious, doubtful, or pressured, but your calm certainty creates a magnetic presence, drawing people, opportunities, and circumstances to align with your vision. Patience teaches you to observe life unfolding without interference, knowing that every seeming delay is part of the perfect orchestration of events necessary to fulfill your desire completely. It also deepens your trust, because each small confirmation of alignment strengthens your belief that the law is always working in your favor. By practicing patience consistently, you reduce inner conflict, maintain clarity, and preserve the integrity of the six-figure identity you are embodying. The outer world, in turn, begins to mirror this inner serenity, delivering results in ways that often surpass your imagination. And as patience becomes an effortless aspect of your daily life, you find yourself living with the peace, confidence, and certainty of someone who already enjoys the six-figure income, fully aligned with the law of assumption and the invisible orchestration of reality. As patience becomes a natural extension of your practice, you will begin to realize that clarity of purpose amplifies the effectiveness of your manifestations, because the subconscious responds most powerfully when your desire is specific, emotionally vivid, and unequivocally defined. Vague intentions or wishful thinking produce scattered energy that lacks the force needed to reshape your outer reality, whereas a clear, concrete vision of your six-figure income acts like a laser, directing your subconscious to align circumstances precisely with your goal. Imagine not only the number in your bank account, but also the lifestyle, freedom, and opportunities that come with it, and allow every detail to be as vivid and real as though it were happening in this moment. Clarity eliminates confusion and doubt, because when your inner state is focused on a single, well-defined outcome, the subconscious is able to orchestrate events without distraction or hesitation. Neville often emphasized that imagination must be precise and emotionally charged, because the combination of clarity and feeling impresses the subconscious most powerfully, turning assumption into reality. You will notice that the more specific your vision, the easier it is to live in the end, because you can step fully into the identity of someone who already enjoys that exact reality, experiencing all its emotional and practical aspects. Each time you rehearse this clear and detailed scenario, the subconscious records it as fact, creating pathways that your outer world must eventually follow. Clarity also strengthens inspired action, because when you know exactly what you desire and why, the steps you take flow naturally, guided by intuition and aligned with your assumed identity. Over time, opportunities begin to appear that perfectly match the detailed reality you have imagined, and decisions that once felt uncertain now unfold effortlessly. The combination of clarity and feeling produces unwavering confidence, because your inner state resonates with the certainty of the fulfilled desire, making doubt and fear increasingly irrelevant. You may notice that your interactions, business ideas, and creative solutions begin reflecting the specific reality you have assumed, confirming that your inner alignment is guiding outer results. Maintaining clarity requires focus, but the rewards are profound, because scattered desires dilute the power of assumption, while concentrated, vivid intention magnifies it exponentially. As clarity becomes habitual, you no longer question whether the six-figure income is possible. You simply assume it as an inevitable fact, and the law of assumption works tirelessly to bring every detail into physical form. You may also notice a subtle acceleration of events, because the more precise your inner image, the less ambiguity the subconscious needs to resolve, allowing manifestation to unfold with elegance and speed. Each day spent reinforcing a vivid, emotionally charged vision strengthens your inner authority, the identity of someone who naturally inhabits wealth and abundance. Clarity eliminates second-guessing, hesitation, and internal resistance, replacing them with a focused, confident state that magnetizes circumstances and people in alignment with your goals. This focused state becomes a protective shield against doubt, fear, or contradictory influences from the outside world. As your inner clarity and alignment deepen, the outer world increasingly mirrors the specific reality you have assumed, until the six-figure income becomes an effortless, inevitable reflection of your internal state. And by combining clarity, imagination, feeling, trust, patience, and inspired action, you create a coherent, unstoppable inner framework that ensures your financial desires manifest fully, naturally, and in perfect timing. As clarity sharpens your inner vision, you will begin to notice the critical role of self-worth in the manifestation process. Because no outer circumstances can fully align with the desire that your subconscious believes you are unworthy of receiving. Many people unconsciously block abundance because deep down, they feel they do not deserve it, and this hidden belief sabotages even the most vivid imaginings and persistent assumptions. Neville emphasized that your self-concept determines your capacity to receive, and until you elevate your sense of worth, the law of assumption will only reflect what you truly believe about yourself. Imagine the version of yourself who naturally commands a six-figure income with dignity, confidence, and ease, and notice how their sense of worth feels intrinsic, unshakable, and completely natural. Each time you dwell in this identity, you reinforce the subconscious belief that abundance is not only possible but fully deserved, clearing the hidden resistance that previously blocked wealth. Self-worth affects not only your financial reality, but also the decisions, actions, and opportunities you allow into your life. Because a person who feels deserving steps into situations with authority, clarity, and confidence. You may begin to notice subtle shifts in behavior, such as asserting yourself more confidently in business discussions, accepting opportunities you would previously hesitate to pursue, or trusting that people and situations will support your success. These changes are not superficial. They are the reflection of an internal upgrade, where your identity expands to accommodate the reality of six figures. Gratitude, trust, imagination, clarity, and inspired action all become more effective when paired with an unshakable sense of self-worth. Because the subconscious now recognizes that abundance is natural, appropriate, and aligned with who you are. Any lingering doubts or fears about being worthy gradually dissolve as you consistently inhabit the identity of someone who effortlessly earns six figures and enjoys the benefits of that income. Over time, self-worth transforms the way you perceive the world, because you begin to see opportunities where before you saw only obstacles, and challenges no longer intimidate but inspire action aligned with your inner certainty. Neville taught that assuming the feeling of worthiness is just as important as assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled, because both together instruct the subconscious to produce reality that matches your elevated identity. As you strengthen this internal sense of value, external circumstances begin to shift accordingly, reflecting not just abundance, but the quality of life and opportunities appropriate to someone of your inner stature. You may notice that people respond differently to you, not because you are trying to manipulate them, but because your inner authority communicates confidence, competence, and alignment with success. Each interaction, decision, and encounter becomes a subtle confirmation that your identity is expanding, aligning perfectly with the six-figure reality you are assuming. Self-worth allows you to hold the inner state with ease, even when appearances seem contrary, because you no longer question your right to receive what you desire. Your inner alignment becomes unshakable, creating a protective field against doubt, fear, and negativity that previously interfered with manifestation. The combination of elevated self-worth with all the other techniques produces an unstoppable inner momentum that the outer world cannot resist reflecting. And as your sense of deserving grows, the manifestation of your six-figure income no longer feels like an external achievement, but an inevitable extension of the person you have fully become in consciousness. As your sense of self-worth solidifies, you will begin to understand the vital role of mental environment in shaping your six-figure reality, because the thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions you consistently dwell upon become the blueprint for the life you experience. Neville emphasized that the mind is like a fertile garden, and whatever is nurtured and repeatedly impressed upon the subconscious will grow into your outer reality, whether it is empowering or limiting. By intentionally cultivating thoughts that reflect abundance, success, and competence, you prepare the soil of your subconscious to manifest a six-figure income naturally, while negative, fearful, or doubtful thought is weeds that choke your progress. Imagine spending your day immersed in ideas of prosperity, visualizing your income flowing freely, and observing how effortlessly inspired actions and opportunities begin to align with that focus. Each thought you choose to dwell on reinforces the identity of someone who commands financial freedom, gradually replacing old patterns of scarcity, limitation, or unworthiness. Over time, you begin to notice a heightened awareness of your inner dialogue, catching subtle doubts or complaints before they can take root and replacing them with assumptions of abundance. Your mental environment, now intentionally curated, starts influencing your outer world, drawing people, resources, and circumstances that harmonize with the wealth you have assumed internally. You will see that your decisions become more confident, strategic, and aligned with the long-term vision of six figures, because your mind no longer vacillates between hope and fear. The process of refining your mental environment requires patience, awareness, and repetition. But each moment invested yields compounding returns, as the subconscious begins to operate in harmony with your desired reality. Neville taught that imagination, feeling, trust, gratitude, self-worth, and mental discipline together create a coherent state that the subconscious cannot resist manifesting. And the more consistent you are, the faster results appear. You may also notice a subtle increase in your creativity and problem-solving ability, because a focused mental environment naturally generates ideas and strategies that support your financial goals. Small synchronicities, timely meetings, and fortunate coincidences begin occurring more frequently, signaling that the unseen is now orchestrating circumstances on your behalf. The mental environment also protects you from external negativity, gossip, or doubt, because your attention and energy are firmly anchored in the assumed reality of abundance. You begin to understand that external appearances are merely reflections of your inner state, and by maintaining a disciplined, wealthy-focused mental environment, the outer world adjusts effortlessly to match. Each day spent cultivating empowering thoughts strengthens the alignment of imagination, feeling, and action, creating a seamless inner momentum that drives manifestation forward. Over time, the identity of someone who naturally earns six figures becomes so dominant that it colors every aspect of your life, from decisions to relationships to opportunities. Mental discipline ensures that fleeting doubts or external discouragement no longer have the power to disrupt your inner certainty or the unfolding of your desires. You will begin to recognize that your mental environment is the true source of all results, and the law of assumption responds precisely to the quality and consistency of the inner state you maintain. And as your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions are elevated and aligned, your six-figure income no longer exists as a distant hope, but as a natural, inevitable reflection of the person you have fully become in consciousness. As you refine your mental environment, you will begin to notice the transformative power of visualization in consolidating your six-figure identity. Because seeing your desired reality vividly in the mind's eye strengthens the subconscious impression and accelerates manifestation in the outer world. Visualization is not merely picturing numbers in a bank account. It is creating complete inner scenes filled with sensory details, emotion, and the lived experience of having already achieved your goal. Imagine walking into your office, receiving payment notifications, engaging confidently with clients or partners, and feeling the pride, freedom, and satisfaction of someone who naturally earns six figures. And allow yourself to inhabit that scene as fully as possible. Each time you immerse in these detailed visualizations, your subconscious treats them as fact, arranging circumstances, opportunities, and people to align with that reality. Neville emphasized that the imagination is the workshop of creation, and the more convincingly you feel and experience the scene internally, the more the outer world becomes compelled to mirror it. The challenge is maintaining consistency, because distractions, doubt, or mundane concerns can dilute the impact of your inner rehearsals, but persistence ensures that the subconscious receives clear, uninterrupted signals. By visualizing daily, especially during moments of relaxation or before sleep, you imprint your desired reality onto the subconscious with maximal effect, allowing it to quietly orchestrate the unfolding of wealth. You may notice that seemingly unrelated events, conversations, or ideas begin converging toward your desired outcome, forming the bridge of incidents that Neville often described. Visualization strengthens all other techniques: imagination, feeling, trust, gratitude, self-worth, clarity, and inspired action, by providing a tangible, emotionally charged representation of the assumed state for your subconscious to act upon. Over time, visualizing in vivid detail enhances confidence because you begin to recognize the effortless reality of the six-figure self you are inhabiting. You will find that creativity and problem-solving improve naturally, because your inner mind constantly searches for ways to align external circumstances with the internal scene you are maintaining. Each visualization session reinforces identity rather than goal, transforming you from a seeker into someone who already commands wealth as a natural extension of who you are. External setbacks, delays, or contradictions begin to feel inconsequential, because your inner reality remains dominant and undisturbed, impervious to appearances. Consistent visualization combined with feeling ensures that the subconscious does not mistake imagination for a wish or fantasy, but records it as ongoing reality that must manifest. You will notice that inspired ideas, timely contacts, and unexpected opportunities increasingly appear as if drawn by an invisible magnet, responding to your inner certainty. Visualization also enhances gratitude because experiencing abundance internally allows you to appreciate both current and future wealth with authentic emotion. With practice, your mental scenes become more vivid, more detailed, and more emotionally charged, creating a robust template for the subconscious to translate into physical reality. Over time, the process of visualization seamlessly integrates with daily life, influencing decisions, conversations, and actions without conscious effort. And as your inner world grows richer, more detailed, and aligned, the six-figure income you imagine is no longer a distant dream, but a natural, inevitable expression of the person you have assumed yourself to be in consciousness. As visualization becomes a regular practice, you will begin to notice the importance of emotional alignment in every aspect of your life. Because the subconscious responds most powerfully not to intellectual understanding, but to the emotion that accompanies each thought and image. Neville emphasized that feeling is the secret ingredient that convinces the subconscious that your imagined reality is already true. And without this emotional involvement, manifestation is weakened or delayed. Imagine not just seeing your six-figure income, but feeling the exhilaration, freedom, and security it brings, allowing every cell in your body to resonate with the state of abundance as if it were happening in this moment. Each emotional rehearsal strengthens the subconscious impression, creating a magnetic field that naturally draws the circumstances, opportunities, and people that correspond to the wealth you feel internally. You may notice that when your emotions align with your imagination, inspired ideas and actions flow effortlessly, and decision-making becomes clear, intuitive, and confident, reflecting the person who already inhabits financial freedom. Emotional alignment also acts as a shield against doubt and negativity, because when your inner state vibrates with certainty and fulfillment, external contradictions cannot disturb the identity you are maintaining. Over time, the consistent practice of combining visualization with strong, authentic emotion rewires your subconscious, replacing old patterns of scarcity, fear, or hesitation with a stable foundation of abundance and confidence. You begin to realize that money and success are not separate from your inner state, but direct reflections of the emotional and mental identity you hold. Each time you allow yourself to fully feel the joy, relief, and pride of earning six figures, you accelerate the subconscious coordination of events in your favor, ensuring that external circumstances mirror your internal reality. The process also teaches you patience, because emotional alignment requires persistent focus and trust in the unseen law that orchestrates life in perfect timing. You may notice that as your emotional resonance deepens, small synchronicities and fortunate events occur more frequently, reinforcing the reality of your assumed identity. Emotional alignment enhances gratitude as well, because experiencing abundance internally allows you to appreciate both what you already have and the wealth that is on its way. Over time, your actions, choices, and even casual interactions naturally reflect the emotional state of someone who already commands a six-figure income, making manifestation effortless. You begin to understand that external challenges are merely temporary appearances that cannot alter the strong emotional identity you maintain. Consistent emotional alignment strengthens all other techniques: imagination, visualization, clarity, trust, self-worth, patience, and inspired action. By providing a living emotional blueprint for the subconscious, you may notice a profound shift in confidence, focus, and creativity because the subconscious now sees your desired reality as permanent and inevitable. Emotional alignment also attracts the right people, resources, and opportunities because your inner state emits a magnetic signal that the world responds to naturally. Each day spent in this aligned, emotionally rich state compounds your manifestation potential, creating momentum that the outer world cannot resist. And as emotional alignment becomes second nature, the six-figure income you imagine ceases to feel like a distant goal and begins to exist as the natural, inevitable reflection of the fully embodied, wealthy version of you. As your emotional alignment deepens, you will begin to understand the necessity of consistency in maintaining the six-figure identity, because sporadic effort or intermittent belief cannot convince the subconscious to fully reorganize reality in your favor. Consistency is the quiet power that ensures your imagination, feelings, trust, gratitude, self-worth, clarity, visualization, and inspired action work together seamlessly, producing a coherent, unstoppable inner momentum. Imagine practicing your inner rehearsals, visualizing your desired income, feeling the joy and freedom of wealth, and maintaining unwavering belief every day without faltering. And notice how your outer world begins to adjust in perfect harmony. Each repeated impression strengthens the subconscious conviction that your assumed state is permanent, and this cumulative effect accelerates the manifestation of your six-figure income. Inconsistent focus, on the other hand, creates internal contradictions that confuse the subconscious and delay results, because it cannot distinguish between half-hearted belief and full assumption. Over time, as you maintain consistency, external circumstances begin responding more reliably, presenting opportunities, people, and situations that align effortlessly with the identity you are embodying. Consistency also reinforces patience, because repeated alignment teaches you that manifestation does not require frantic effort, but unfolds naturally when your inner state remains unwavering. You may notice that your thoughts, feelings, and actions begin to harmonize automatically, as if the six-figure version of yourself is now the default state from which all decisions arise. Each day of consistent practice deepens faith, strengthens self-worth, and expands your mental and emotional capacity to accept wealth as normal, natural, and inevitable. Over time, you find that setbacks, doubts, and delays have little to no power over you, because the steady repetition of inner alignment has created an unshakable foundation for manifestation. Consistency also builds trust in the law of assumption itself, as repeated inner practice produces predictable outer results, reinforcing the invisible principles at work. Inspired action becomes effortless and intuitive, because your inner state now dictates the path forward, and external circumstances align automatically with the identity you maintain. You may notice that life begins to feel more fluid, responsive, and aligned with your goals, because the subconscious has fully adopted the six-figure reality as your permanent state. Each day, your inner world grows stronger, more coherent, and more magnetic, ensuring that external evidence must eventually conform. Consistency compounds the effects of visualization, imagination, feeling, and gratitude, producing an inner reality so strong that the outer world cannot resist reflecting it. You begin to understand that wealth is not a goal to chase, but an inevitable byproduct of the person you consistently assume yourself to be. External signs of progress, calls, opportunities, offers, or creative insights appear more frequently and predictably, confirming the power of steadfast alignment. Each repetition of your inner state reinforces identity rather than circumstance, ensuring that manifestation becomes a natural extension of your daily life. And as consistency becomes second nature, The six-figure income you desire is no longer a distant dream but an unavoidable reflection of the fully assumed, consistently maintained version of yourself in consciousness. As consistency becomes second nature, you will begin to notice the importance of eliminating resistance in every form, because even subtle doubts, complaints, or negative emotions can interfere with the effortless flow of manifestation and slow the arrival of your six-figure income. Resistance is often hidden in everyday thoughts, conversations, or judgments, and recognizing it requires honest self-awareness and commitment to maintaining the assumed state without compromise. Neville taught that the subconscious obeys the dominant feeling of your inner state, and resistance dilutes the strength of that state, creating a tug-of-war that delays manifestation. Imagine identifying every point of inner conflict, releasing judgment, and replacing doubt with unwavering assumption, trust, and gratitude, allowing your subconscious to work unhindered in orchestrating the perfect outer circumstances. Each time you notice and dissolve resistance, you strengthen the magnetic power of your inner state, making the manifestation process smoother, faster, and more predictable. You will find that releasing resistance is not about suppressing thoughts, but about consciously redirecting attention to the reality you wish to inhabit, reinforcing identity over circumstance. Small irritations, setbacks, or negative interactions that once triggered frustration now pass without disturbing your internal alignment, because your inner state is anchored in certainty, joy, and the feeling of having already received. The more consistently you remove resistance, the more effortless inspired action becomes, because the subconscious now acts without opposition, arranging circumstances and opportunities in perfect harmony with your assumed reality. Over time, the accumulation of inner alignment, emotional resonance, and consistent practice overwhelms any lingering doubts, creating an unstoppable momentum that compels the outer world to conform. You begin to notice a profound ease in daily life, where decisions, opportunities, and creative insights arise naturally and in alignment with the six-figure identity you maintain. Resistance also affects timing, because each moment of inner conflict slows the subconscious orchestration, whereas release accelerates the flow, allowing events to align with the invisible bridge of incidents that Neville described. As you eliminate inner friction, the law of assumption operates more efficiently, and external manifestations begin to appear faster, often in unexpected but perfectly timed ways. You may notice that people, resources, and opportunities start appearing at just the right moments, confirming that your inner state is now the dominant influence on reality. Each act of releasing doubt, fear, or complaint strengthens confidence, self-worth, and trust, ensuring that manifestation becomes not only inevitable, but effortless. Over time, resistance fades naturally as the six-figure identity becomes fully integrated, leaving only the dominant feeling of abundance, certainty, and alignment. You begin to recognize that the outer world is simply reflecting the inner state, and the removal of resistance allows that reflection to be immediate, accurate, and predictable. Daily attention to inner alignment, emotional resonance, and elimination of resistance creates a harmonious flow that the subconscious cannot resist translating into physical reality. Small confirmations, synchronicities, and opportunities appear more frequently, reinforcing your faith and demonstrating the law of assumption in action. And as resistance dissolves completely, the six-figure income you have imagined for so long finally manifests as the inevitable, effortless, and natural reflection of the fully assumed, consistently maintained, and emotionally aligned version of yourself. Now that you have mastered imagination, feeling, trust, gratitude, self-worth, clarity, visualization, inspired action, patience, consistency, and the elimination of resistance, you will begin to recognize that the six-figure income is not something to attain externally, but a natural extension of the fully assumed identity you have cultivated in consciousness. Every previous practice, every inner rehearsal, and every moment spent feeling the reality of abundance has built a foundation so strong that the outer world is compelled to align, delivering circumstances, opportunities, and resources that mirror your inner state. Imagine waking each day already inhabiting the life of someone who earns six figures effortlessly, experiencing freedom, confidence, and joy as an intrinsic part of your daily reality, and notice how naturally inspired actions arise to support that identity. The law of assumption, which you have now understood and applied consistently, has orchestrated the bridge of incidents perfectly, guiding events in unseen ways until manifestation becomes unavoidable. You may notice that people, situations, and creative ideas appear with perfect timing, often in ways that feel miraculous, but are simply the logical unfolding of the inner state you have maintained. Your financial reality now reflects the coherence, certainty, and emotional resonance you have cultivated, proving that the external world is always a mirror of your dominant assumptions. Gratitude, trust, clarity, self-worth, and emotional alignment have amplified your subconscious impression to such an extent that manifestation feels effortless, inevitable, and natural. Each day, your actions, thoughts, and feelings reinforce the identity of someone who naturally commands wealth, making abundance not a goal but a lived reality. Even challenges or unexpected situations now serve as evidence of the unseen law working in your favor, because you have learned to maintain inner alignment regardless of appearances. Over time, your sense of worth, patience, and calm certainty become dominant, radiating outward and attracting not only money but opportunities, partnerships, and experiences consistent with a six-figure lifestyle. You will notice that living as if you already have the desired income allows freedom and creativity to flourish, because fear, doubt, and resistance no longer dominate your choices. The bridge of incidents Neville described now unfolds with precision, showing you that manifestation is not effortful struggle, but the natural outcome of living in the end. Every moment of alignment, visualization, emotional resonance, and inspired action compounds, accelerating the arrival of your desired reality and reinforcing the identity you have assumed. You may begin to feel as though life itself conspires in your favor, presenting solutions, guidance, and resources that appear perfectly when needed. External evidence, from payments to opportunities, arrives as the logical reflection of your inner state, leaving no room for doubt about the power of your assumption. You will understand that the six-figure income has always been a function of your consciousness, and by embodying the person who naturally commands it, you have simply allowed the law of assumption to work without interference. Each success, synchronicity, and confirmation reinforces the seamless integration of all techniques, proving that imagination, feeling, trust, gratitude, clarity, self-worth, visualization, inspired action, patience, consistency, and the removal of resistance operate together as a coherent system. You now live fully in the state of having already received, where every thought, feeling, and action is aligned with the reality of abundance. And as you step into each day with the certainty, joy, and identity of someone who effortlessly earns six figures, you finally experience the ultimate truth of Neville's teachings. That reality always conforms to the state you assume. And by mastering your consciousness, you have manifested a life of wealth, freedom, and infinite possibility beyond your imagination.